Glad he got technical difficulties be damned. Look at you.
Hey, that was my fault. I should have tried the headphones before. If it isn't Winston Churchill himself.
That's right.
Welcome back to this side of the pond, Lloyd.
Thank you, sir.
I'm glad. You're nice and cultured.
Yeah, I am now. I've seen a lot. I was a man that was in a Louisiana bubble, and then I went out and expanded my mind out over in London and learned nothing. Like, there's no reason to go there. Really, not a lot.
Of history.
They're big on that, huh? Huge. Mm-hmm. They love big on clocks. They're like huge deal.
Big Ben. There's a big clock there.
Yeah, he's right twice a day, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
That's where that saying came from. Went on a tour of rock and roll. Turns out there's a lot. Nice. They like to take credit for a lot.
Yeah.
They won the war. I thought I learned history differently, I guess.
Yeah.
I thought that America had a big push in that.
Well, they got to tell their story. There's always two sides to every story.
That's true, and the truth.
Yeah.
It was VE Day when we went over there. There, July the 4th, is Victory over Europe or Victory in Europe Day.
Interesting.
And so they're all out on holiday, drinking pints.
Oh, nice.
And
what a time to go.
Yeah. Then there's they announced the Pope, but that was global, and they got an American, so they made fun of us for that.
Of course.
So
nice.
But
great.
All in all, the good people. Food stinks.
Yeah. Yeah, you weren't having that. No, I got that. I got that from you. It's okay. You're back.
Yes.
You're back.
And how are you, sir?
I'm very happy that you're back.
I got to catch some LSU baseball, despite being across the pond, thanks to a little delay. And the mic'd up group chat going off at 4:30 in the morning with 35 text messages in a row. It's like, I guess something happened. So I ended up checking us out on a couple channels if you go surf. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on the weekend, sir.
Yeah, big weekend, obviously. Tigers After Dark on Friday night. That was another one. I was not there. We were not there this time, Lloyd. It didn't matter. They ended up winning. I actually fell asleep in the ninth and had to wake up I actually woke up in the middle of the night. Kobe, my dog, woke me up to go take him out. And I woke up at
gamer
3:45 in the morning to go bring him out. And I was like, damn, I probably should check to see if they won. But I was like, I don't want to check because they lost. I'll be pissed. I'm not going to go back to sleep. So I went back to sleep, waited till the morning, woke up, and then obviously saw that they won on a sacrifice fly, which was awesome. And then Saturday was probably their best game of the year, I would imagine. Arkansas arguably is the most complete team in the country as far as offense, defense, and special teams. Offense, defense, and pitching.
Faces.
It's 3 phases of the game. And, LSU goes out there and jumps on them early and continues to tackle on runs. They don't give up a bunch of runs and then 10-run roll them. And then even on Sunday, I thought LSU played fine. I thought they played well. I think people have to realize that Arkansas is one of the best offensive teams in the country, if not the best offensive team in the country. And LSU held them. They held them in check all week. Obviously, Sunday they had a one inning where they kind of couldn't find the strike zone. Evans, kind of struggled a little bit again and gave up some runs, but LSU was offensively able to come back and threaten and get themselves close. And then they had an inning where they brought some guys out of the bullpen and they didn't get the job done, but was able to kind of limit the damage. But in games like that, when you have teams that are so close and so good and so talented, you can't give up extra. You can't give up, extra base runners and easy runs by walking guys in, and that was ultimately the difference in that game.
Yeah, to start with the good, Cade Anderson, Anthony Ianson, both of those guys once again just beyond impressive. LSU debatedly, and I think for sure has the best 1-2 punch in the country when it comes to starters for Game 1 and Game 2. Talk about the performances those two guys put in.
Yeah, I feel like every week we're talking about this, right? I mean, Cade Anderson goes out there and he's, as good as it gets. And, I've been on the Cade Anderson train for the last 2 years. And since he came to campus and I watched him pitch and I saw, the stuff that he had and the way, his arm action, all of those types of things, you knew he had it. And then you get to know him and you kind of realize, damn, he's not only is he talented, but he's kind of got the makeup behind it. And he's from Louisiana, went to St. Paul's, wants to play for LSU, and so it means a lot more to him. And you combine all of that, and you just every week you watch him get better and better and better. And he goes out there and obviously has another lights out performance, does what he needs to do as an ace. And then Ianson is, arguably the last 2 weekends have arguably been, I don't even know if it's arguably, probably the best 2 weekends of any pitcher in the entire country. He goes complete game, I believe 14 strikeouts last weekend, and probably could have gone CG 7 innings with a 10-run if he decided to put him back out there for the 7th. 93 pitches in 6 innings. I think he struck out 11 or 12 guys, and complete and total control, extremely confident on the mound. And, you can't talk enough about those two guys. You can go as far, you're going to go as far as you want to go because you have those two guys in your rotation.
No, 100%. One other guy that I don't think we've really touched on quite enough, and he's been a guy that's been playing really good baseball the last couple of weekends, is Ethan Fry, and just kind of his story as he's just kind of waited his opportunity and he's taken full advantage of it. What did you see from the big guy out of Rose Pine this weekend?
Yeah, Ethan obviously came in super talented. I mean, he's a monster. He's 20 and, runs really well, super athletic. And, last year you kind of saw some flashes of it. Then he got hurt and kind of derailed his season a little bit. And this year, it was one of those things where he didn't transfer. He stayed here. He kind of waited his turn and took full advantage of his opportunities. And early on in the year, you'd get some opportunities midweek and pinch hits, and he was doing really well. And then all of a sudden he started getting some more opportunities. And, everybody wants to, I'm not going to buy in until you prove it against the SEC, right? So, early in the year, he had all these great numbers, and everybody's like, oh, he hasn't done it in SEC play. It's only midweek. It's only these, inferior competition. And all he has done is continue to perform, whether it's SEC, whether it's midweek, what doesn't matter, off the bench starting. He has continued to perform. He has kind of taken hold of that DH role and in an extremely important spot behind, the 2 and 3 guys, right? We've talked a lot about on Mic'd Up. Jared Mitchell has talked a lot about this is, the one thing that he wants to be able to see is have somebody strike fear in the opposing pitchers behind Bear Jones. And up until right now, you really haven't found that. And it feels like Ethan Fry with 10 home runs. I think he's hitting, 360, 370, whatever it is. He's kind of emerged as that guy. And, he has an all-fields approach. I mean, he's hitting balls out to right, he's hitting balls out to left. He's battling. He's making pitchers work. And he's everything you want. And a DH, he's everything you want in the middle of that lineup. And kudos to him in an era and in a time now where it's really easy just to pick up and leave and go try your hand somewhere else. He stuck it out, stayed here, and that definitely endears him to the fans.
And then, going to Friday night, game number 1, this is the second time this season for LSU to have one of these walk-offs at 1:20 a.m. We might have brought this up last time, but how difficult is it as a player to stay locked in when you're supposed to have first pitch at 6:30? It ends up getting pushed back to 10 p.m., and you're having to play games past midnight because LSU seems to play even better when the clock strikes midnight.
Yeah, it's difficult. Obviously you're around. If you're at the field all day, you kind of get stale and bored, and you're hanging out. And you just don't want to get too stiff or too lackadaisical. Yeah. And obviously when you're at home, it's a little bit easier to do than when you're on the road because you have your own clubhouse. You have the familiarity around it. You have the ping pong. You have things you can do to kind of keep yourself active. And, once the game starts at that point, it doesn't really matter. The adrenaline's running and it doesn't really matter if it's, 9:55 or 6:55. Once the game starts, obviously getting to that point is the more difficult part. And, I think you credit to the guys on the team and the leadership you have on the team of these guys staying ready no matter when the game starts and able to – and look, when you play these last few times they played these games, it hasn't been where, they got off to this huge lead and it just kind of coasted. It's been, it's been a nut cutter and it's been, every pitch matters and, they've ended up winning it in their last at bat. So, kudos to the guys on the team, and kudos to the leadership around those guys to keep them locked in and ready to go.
And it feels inevitable this will probably happen in the postseason if LSU's able to host, where just the way that this year's gone, that this might happen again in a big spot. When it is like this and it ends up becoming like a bit of a theme, it's like playing football in the rain, right? Like, it's fun if you make it fun. And it feels like for LSU, when it starts to get these 10 o'clock first pitches, is that something that you kind of like in the locker room, like, all right, let's do it again? Like, after a Tennessee game where you win it the way that you do, like, it almost becomes fun because it becomes your arena a little bit?
Yeah, you lean into it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you find ways to create an advantage, right? Like, hey, we've done this already. We're really good at this. All right, this is, we got them right where we want them type stuff, right? Like, you absolutely lean into those situations. You absolutely put yourself in you try to find the most advantageous part of, some adversity. And, fortunate for LSU, they've been able to do this a few times this year, and they've been able to win against probably the two best opponents they've played all year, two of the better opponents they've played all year. And yeah, you absolutely lean into that, and you put that as a advantage. Hey, when the longer the game goes on, or longer the delay happens, the more advantage that we're at because we've done it a lot this year.
It's I touched on it a little bit, but after LSU takes 2 of 3 from Arkansas, who was, I believe, the number 1 team in the country, if I'm not mistaken.
Not this year.
This week. Was it Texas?
No,
though?
remember they swept Texas, and Texas didn't move.
Oh, of course.
Arkansas was 7. That was weird, huh?
Yeah, I don't know where I saw they were 1. Regardless, LSU takes 2 of 3 from a top 10 team in the country.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
When do you see the SEC wins continue to go up as they are 17 and 10? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see a hosting position or national seed ranking? What is your inclination, and where are you leaning for LSU?
Yeah, I think we've talked about this quite a bit. I think 19 is the magic number.
Paul.
And I think a lot of people were talking about getting to 19. You had to go 4-2 over the last 6 games of the season to get to that number. Obviously winning at home against Arkansas, that gives you a good, some cushion. You don't ever, no matter how bad you saw it this weekend in Missouri. Missouri just swept A&M, right? Like, you don't want to rely, no matter how bad or good the team is, you don't want to have to rely on a sweep at the end of the year to get to where you need to be. And, so winning the series this weekend puts you in a position to go out there and just take care of business on the road, win the series, and get to 19 wins. I think 19 wins gets you a national seed. I think 18 is you're obviously in a conversation. I think that gets you one as well. But the optics of losing the series on the road at South Carolina may not help. But LSU is the number 1 team in the country this year, this weekend. And, I think that if they go and they get 18, 19 wins, they lock it up. 19 for sure. 20 wins probably that may put you at number 2 in the SEC. And, top 4 teams in the SEC usually are going to get top national seeds. Oh,
breaking news real quick. Rankings just came out. There's a new number 1 team in the country.
I think I did what you said.
Did you say that?
Yeah, you just said that.
Oh, nice. I was reading the chat. Double breaking news.
You're welcome.
Breaking here. I'll put it on the ticker.
Now I know how much you pay attention to.
I like to interact with the people. I thought Saber on Green was breaking news. Not his real name, by the way. I thought it was.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
It's a screen name?
Uh-huh.
That's crazy. I thought that was his
Hey, let's talk about this. We talked about the pitching staff. We talked about the 2 starters. Let's talk about the reemergence of Chase Shores. Last 3 times he's been out.
Shuffle it again.
The last three outings have been really good. And I think his best outing was this past weekend.
Yeah.
He's locating his slider. Now he's throwing his slider where he wants it, when he wants it. And, he's been really, really good. And the reemergence of him and him, pitching to the way he's capable of pitching, I think that is a huge addition to LSU going into the postseason.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into the question I was going to ask. I mean, with Case and Evans, the last 2 weekends hasn't, extended deeper into games like he did that first start against Tennessee. Does that spark up conversation of changing things once again now that Shores is kind of pitching better and Evans isn't kind of going as far into games when he's starting, does Jay tinker with it again, or do you just kind of hold the rope and get through to postseason play?
Yeah, look, I don't think Jay every weekend puts down Case and Evans as a third starter.
Yeah.
Right. I think he had talked about it a lot during the week that if they're in a position to win Saturday's game and they needed to use him, they were going to use him, and they're going to figure out Sunday on Sunday. And I think you're going to continue to see that throughout the rest of the last series of the year in the postseason. You're going to see them try to win the series, so to speak, win the first two games, and then figure out game three. And if they have to use Case and Evans, they're going to use them. If not, they're going to potentially start them. I don't know if you see somebody else emerge. I don't know if you see them put Chase Shores back in there, because Chase has been good over the last few weeks, but he hasn't been in the starting rotation. So I don't know if you want to mess with that. This just feels a little bit like 2023 with Thatcher, right? Thatcher started, wasn't good, took Thatcher out to the rotation, put him in the bullpen, was really good in the bullpen, and then ended up putting him back in the rotation as a postseason play, and he was really good there and then. So you could see the same thing with Chase Shores. I wouldn't be shocked. I think Chase has more starting experience, and Case Evans was one of the best relievers in the country when he was coming out, and he was only asked to go 3, 4, 5, not start. But look, his first career start, he went 6 innings, gave up 2 runs, right? And so he showed you that he's able to do that. Now, the last 2 outings have not been good. I think he went 3 1/3 and 3 2/3. This one was probably his worst out of the 3. He gave up 4 runs. The one 2 weeks ago, it was more about walks than hits. But, I think that's something that Jay's going to continue to look at. But I think if he has an opportunity to win, game 1 and 2, he's going to use Case and Evans in those games if he needs to, and then he's going to figure out Sunday as it goes.
I was going to ask maybe one more tinker, and he doesn't like to call it tinkering. He calls it managing, which is true. Both can be true at the same time. You have a legitimate starter that you've used out the bullpen the entire year. Would you ever see a world in which Cowan pitches game 3?
And that could be it. Listen, if you have Chase Shores continuing to do what he's doing, then you could see Chase Shores take over the Cowan spot, and Case Evans go back to his spot, and then you have Cowan start on that Sunday game. I think that that is also a possibility. He's got a lot of starting experience. I don't think it's far-fetched idea, but I think you're going to have a lot of TBA.
Yeah.
Or TBD on Sundays. Game 3 is moving on from here. But, Cowan would not be a bad idea. It wouldn't be a bad situation for him to go out there and get a start.
At what point does it matter if you're starting or relieving? Like, it feels like everybody's always searching for you have to have a game 3 starter. It'd be nice to put this guy to start the game. If you're winning in this fashion, what's the thing that we've said for as long as we've done shows? It's win 2 out of 3, but it feels like people are always certain. Well, maybe you can put him here. And it's like, well, at what point?
But you haven't won the last 2 Sundays, right? And so there's going to be a point where you're going to have to win that 3rd game. And when does a starter matter? Yeah, you want to win the series. The starter matters whenever you can kind of get through 5 innings and keep you in the game. Right, LSU, even the last 2 weekends, and they haven't been playing great, or they haven't played great on Sundays. Started great. You've been in the game. You had an opportunity to win both games these last 2 Sundays. You didn't do it, but you had an opportunity to win it. And the starting pitching wasn't what you expected it to be. So, when it matters whenever you can go 5, and you look up and you're like, damn, okay, we've got one guy to get us through that first 5 innings. And now we can kind of piece it together for the next 4 instead of having to piece together for 7.
One of the names that's come up a lot the last couple of weeks as he's been taken off the injury reports, Devin Sheeran, the big transfer that had the ACL.
Who put that out there?
Is that going to be, they wanted – it really felt like that Grambling game that got canceled was going to be the night to get him out there, see if you could get some work.
It was going to be Sheeran and Guidry.
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah. Listen, I still think that he is going to throw, but he hasn't. So, 3 weeks ago, it really felt like he was ready.
Yeah.
And based off of what I was hearing, not even from the staff, just from around the program, and, he hasn't thrown yet. And I don't know if that's because maybe his arm's sore or something happened or whatever it is. But, if you don't see him this weekend,
or
like,
SEC,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, when you feel comfortable throwing him in a game, maybe first game of the regional that you're hosting. Like, I don't know. But if he's going to throw, I'd imagine you're going to see him at least in one of the games this weekend.
Last one I've got is the lineup. We talked about it last Monday against A&M. There were 3 different lineups, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it seems like Jay kind of reverted back to the lineup that kind of got it all started for LSU this year, with Curiel leading off and everything else kind of fell in line. What were your thoughts on Jay going back to that and how it looked this weekend?
I think it was pretty expected. I think everybody likes to look at things and freak out. LSU wasn't scoring any runs. It was just hey, let's try something different, and let's see if we can't get a spark and do something. And it didn't feel like that was a lineup that was going to be the lineup from here on out. Like, it was just, hey, this was happening this weekend. I'm going to manage the weekend the way I see it playing out, and let me just figure it out. And so them going back to the normal lineup that we've seen has. That was pretty expected, and it was nice to see those guys. It was nice to see Curiel get a couple big hits. It was nice to see Jared Jones get a couple big hits. Obviously, both those guys probably still aren't feeling as good as they want to feel right now. It was nice to see Milam hit a homer, get a couple hits. You want to see him to start get going. Like I said, I've said this before. If I was going to make an adjustment on lineups and tinkers with things, I would have liked to see Milam get moved up in the lineup at the top half and maybe give him some cushion and give him some help and get him going. Obviously, it didn't happen. Look, big homer yesterday, had 2 hits yesterday, and so hopefully that kind of gets him going and can get him back into form like he was last year. But that was his 10th home run of the season. I mean, you got a lot of games left. You got a lot of postseason. If you can do even half of what he did last year in the postseason, he's going to end up with 14, 15 home runs this year.
So you saw our guy, Jay, get the heap ho again. What do you think of, I guess?
God, what a soft ejection.
Okay, thank you. So I was kind of going with it. As a man, which you are, if somebody says you flinch, is that warrant to get ejected? Like, it is insulting.
Big dog him.
Big dog him.
It's an ump show.
Yeah.
It's an ump show. It is. And usually when you throw somebody out because of, honestly, I don't think that's not warranted to get thrown out. I think when you get thrown out, when you throw someone out, it's like, damn, he's right. Mm-hmm. But I can't back down. And so now I'm going to toss him for no reason. And just look at that point, it was like, Jay was like so dejected. He was like, hey, dude, you're not even worth my time to go out there and yell at you because you're so bad at what you've been doing. I'm just going to take this and I'm going to go inside. I'm just going to go on the walkie-talkie and still coach from the dugout, from the locker room. I don't know if that's what he did, but I imagine, he's got some input on what's happening. And, man, it's the umpires have been an issue all year. It's not even them being bad or missing calls. It's the inconsistency. It's not feeling like they understand what they're trying to do. I can get on board with a guy that goes and he is expanding the zone one way. But if he's doing that the entire game for both sides and that's his strike zone, I can deal with it. So ones that expand and they don't call a strike, that's a strike, and they call balls that are strikes, and then they start flip-flopping and the game gets tighter and the asshole gets tighter and you're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what. The crowd starts yelling, you start panicking, and you start flinching and not calling strikes. That's when it gets to be a problem. And Jay's seen it too much, and he went out and he called him out, and the guy didn't like him getting called out because he knew he was right.
Yeah, no, I mean, it really is like the ace of spades. Like, he just the throw out. Oh, you got me? I'm just going to throw this out there.
Clear the deck.
Yeah,
it's just, you know what? You're right. You're gone. You're out of here.
I won't talk about it anymore.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. I don't want to hear you anymore.
It's like when you're a kid and you argue with your parents, and it becomes, well, I'm the parent, so this is how it's going to go. It's like, you're wrong. It's like, well, no, you're punished. Divorce.
It's because I said so, Lloyd.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's because I said so.
Yeah, that's when you know you got him. Like, damn, I got you.
Yeah, all right,
But
fine. I will go to go to my room.
I'm 12. Yeah.
Steal the car.
Can't do anything.
That was just you, Lloyd.
Yeah, well, but you did talk about the offensive lineup, and would you color this as a negative or a positive? When you win 2 out of 3, take a series against Arkansas, and in that series, Barry Jones is 2 for 13 with 6, 7, 8 strikeouts.
Consider that a positive.
Me too.
I think if you can win when your best player and your best guy in the lineup isn't locked in, I think that it's a really good thing. And I think Curriel had a couple timely hits. You had obviously Fry was swinging the bat really well. Dickinson's been steady Eddie. I think that we're on the verge of seeing a little bit of a hot streak of homers for Dickinson. He hadn't hit one in a while, and he went through a stretch in the middle of the year where I think he had 4 or 5, pretty pretty short amount of time. So, I'd imagine it's only a matter of time before he starts hitting for more pop. You had guys around you'd rather see the whole lineup produce as a whole than just one guy. And the fact that one guy didn't have a great series and everybody else, you're able to score runs and win 2 out of 3 against a really good team, I think that shows a lot.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your time, as always. Good stuff, and best of luck tonight with Mic'd Up as you get your guy back.
Appreciate you. Hey, Lloyd, listen, you almost got Wally Pitt, dude. Christian almost –
If I had a nickel for every time I've heard that, and yet here I continue to be.
Hey, this is the first time you left us high and dry, and we were able to have 2 shows without you.
I got possibly to fill in for one, and then Christian stepped up, and it seemed
Christian had so much fun. He wanted to do it twice.
Yeah, that good, because the first time went so well.
I think that was the thing. He was motivated. He had extra motivation.
Yeah, no, he called
after the Monday show.
He called me after Monday. He was like, "Look," he was like, "Can I do Wednesday?" I was like, "Dude, if you want it, go do it."
I think and we almost got there. We had everything. We just the volume. Yeah. We got so close. We got to the 2-yard line, and then we went for it on 4th down, and we couldn't get it.
But he got back on the practice field.
We figured it out. We had a great 2-point conversion play. And, we executed that one over Wednesday. And look, we had a double Zoom on Friday. We're going.
Yeah, I hopped in there. I had to make sure my seed was doing okay. And then it's like, you just want to be on the show. And I was like, sure. So got to do it from the streets of London. It was excellent.
That's it.
Zoom works across the world. We tested it.
Oh, across the world. It's an amazing thing. But boys, I appreciate y'all as always. Fridays are great. You start Mondays. Not Fridays are great.
It feels like Friday.
Better whenever I come on the show. It starts my week off. Great. So appreciate y'all.
Yep.
And we'll see y'all tonight. Lloyd, I'll see you tonight.
That's right.
And whoever's watching this show, y'all tune in to Mic'd Up tonight, 6 to 8.
Sabrion, that is his real name. We found out. And he's a big Mic'd Up guy.
Okay, so now it is a real name.
Yeah, and then we'll have our guy Randy Jones.
Yes.
Hey,
Randy.
Guy has some swag this weekend.
Yeah, I'm about to pull up the picture whenever just to give him a shout out because it's unbelievable. Legends.
Great. Remember, popped out of nowhere. Had some really good, really cool looking sunglasses too. He looked good. Fashion icon.
That's awesome.
That's right.
Well, we appreciate you as always, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, boys.
Yep. There he is.